Welcome in, everybody. Today it is the 14th of August. It is a Wednesday, 2024. My name is CareyHolzman. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. We have another PC build to do, and this is just a result of having to move everything from Studio B to Studio C, and we have a lot of loose parts laying around. So I'm just trying to put parts together, and it makes content, and it makes it easier to move one big computer than a motherboard and RAM and CPU and cooler and power supply, right? Just have it all in one box and move that box. Now, in the process of doing that, we ended up trying, as we were finishing the Johnsbow TK1 build, it was brought to my attention that this case might be motherboard back connector compatible, and it was. So I changed the board out to the ASUS BTF motherboard with all the connectors in the back, and we finished the TK1 build. But as a result, we pulled the motherboard out of there. That's a standard motherboard, so we could do the rear connector board, because I didn't know at the time when I ordered it, it would work. So I have another build to do, but I have no case to put it in. So I went online looking for an inexpensive micro ATX case because, well, I have cases. I don't have any micro ATX, I don't think. Anyway, long story short, went looking around on Amazon, and I found this Apevia. Looks like a dual chambered case. It's a bit wide, but also quite a bit short. And I think this will be a great new housing for our micro ATX motherboard and RAM. Everything that we had built, the solid state drive, we need to put a cooler on it. We need to put a power supply in this. And then we'll bring the original TK1 build motherboard back into life here in the Apevia case. And I've never heard of this company, I don't think. And just to give you an idea of more information, again, I didn't do any research on this. I'm just shopping on Amazon, looking at micro ATX cases and what options I had, and wanted to do something different. And using your contributions and your support from your memberships, I was able to purchase this case. In fact, everything you see in today's video was purchased as a result of your generosity, your super chats, your memberships, without which we would not be making this kind of content. It's just too expensive to make, but we can continue to do it so long as we have your financial support. Now, when I take a look over here at the window capture page for Amazon, I'll show you what I saw, which is this Apevia Prism BK Micro ATX Gaming PC Cube case. Got a bunch of fans in it. I see 5 fans, 2 up on top, 1 in the back, and then 2 at the side. We've got what appears to be a different design here. As you click down here, you'll see there's different versions of this case. And this can get really confusing when Amazon does this. It's very similar to when you're buying something and you want it a different color. And sometimes some sellers, they change the product. So when you're looking at reviews, like here you can see on this Phantom Mesh White, the connectors are down at the bottom. But what we got is the, where is it? Definitely not the pink one. It's in here somewhere. Not this one. Our connectors, the USB and power are up top. Is it the Phantom? Weird. Did I just have it up here and I lost it? Phantom Mesh. Not the Prodigy. It looks like the Prism Black is what we have right here, the Prism Black. And then when you click on it, the pictures will change and the pricing will change for that specific product. But as I mentioned, when you're reading the reviews cover all of those products. So if we scroll down to the reviews, it gets a little confusing because you've got to see what they were reviewing. See, this person reviewed the Prism the Prism Pink. This person reviewed the Prism Black. This person reviewed Prism Pink, Prism White. I don't even see the Prodigy or the Phantom. So anyway, you have to scroll through to find the specific product, and it does get a little confusing. As far as I know, Amazon's the only one that does this, but I wasn't too worried about reviews on a case. And we know this is a micro ATX case by simply counting the number of PCI slots it's got. And this one's got 4 with a knockout for number 5. So that's definitely not going to fit a full-size ATX motherboard. We would need 7 of these. So that's just one easy way to tell, is just count those number of slots. Or, of course, read the description. But proof is in the pudding. Sometimes the descriptions are wrong. Sometimes the photos are wrong. But be that as it may, that's a real quick rule I use when I'm skimming through a number of cases. And that's how I found this one. I just jumped through a bunch of different ones. And I thought it looked pretty good. It's definitely a different case than what we've built before. It almost reminds me of the Project Zero, although this will not support the back connectors on the motherboard, nor do we need it to. Otherwise, it'll be left over with the Johnsbow build right back to where we started from. So it's $80. It's okay. I mean, for that price, $79.99, free shipping. I thought, all right, let's do it. It arrived, no problems. And all I did was unbox it and put it here on the counter. I have not taken a look at it any deeper than that. So we're going to go through this and discover it together, go through this journey together. Thank you to Tom Jackson with a $7.77 super chat. He says, here's for Studio D. Man, I hope Studio D is Detroit. We'll see what happens if we get back to Michigan. Still a couple of years away, I think. Harry Thor became a supporter. Right on. Thank you. Thank you, Harry. A shout out to our friend Alhej Tepej, who joins us from Slovenia, who renewed his membership, now a member for 20 months. A shout out to our friend Buster out there in Scotland. Always a joy when we see Buster, or Peter Laycock, as he's known in the chat room. And we have a significant time difference between ourselves and Scotland, where Buster is. So he might be sleeping. He'll watch the video later. And when you do, hi, Buster. And of course, our friend in Norway, Oystein, a very generous contributor and supporter here. Our friend in New York, Frankie B, very generous supporter here. And those 3 gentlemen together have mostly paid for this video and then some. So thank you to them, as well as all of the memberships and all of the super chats. It all adds up, Amazon gift cards. All this stuff is pretty much all purchased from Amazon. So if you want to see more content like this, please help support us. Otherwise, we'll do other types of content that don't cost so much money to make. In the meantime, I suppose I should get the building. As a reminder, we've already prepped the motherboard, installed Windows on it. All that work is done. And if you wanted to watch that, go back and watch part 1 of the Johnsbow TK1 build. We have a link for that in the video notes. And the parts list is just a copy and paste from the parts list on the TK1, minus the case, power supply, and cooler. So, actually, did I take the cooler out? If I didn't, if maybe Mara can check the parts list. If a CPU cooler is in there, let's remove it. Because I think on this build, with the RGB RAM that we have on it, we have one Laminar. Is it called the Laminar? And I think it's going to look great in here. I don't know. What do you guys think? Should I use the Laminar? It's the last one I have. Not that I can't go on eBay and buy some more, but that's the last one I have for right now. Hello to Mark Baggett, William, Dan Nilsson, and Lou Greenia joining us, as does our friend Mark Gaines, Terry, Ron Barnish, and Captain Blinsky all saying hello. David Graham and Winston Liu say hello. And Richard DeFries. Welcome in, guys. Good to see everybody. And let's see, where do we start? Since the motherboard's prepped, I guess I can just immediately start with the case. I feel like, as far as power supplies go, I found a couple of these EVGA 550 G3s, and I think they're a couple of years old. They were sort of put away over at Studio A and forgotten, but they're brand new. So I thought, well, we could use it in this build. Once again, with a dual-chambered build like this, that whole area above the power supply hole here, going all the way back, is that deep to the motherboard tray from right there all the way over here. It could be all jammed in cables, potentially. I suppose one of the first things we could do is peel the plastic off. Now, there may be plastic on the inside of this panel, but not usually on the inside of this one. Depends case manufacturer to case manufacturer. And we'll remove these thumb screws that hold the glass. You do not want to tighten these with a screwdriver, or if you do, keep them pretty loose. These screws are going to have a little rubber washer on the end, and that's to keep it from cracking the glass and also to reduce any vibration. Some cheaper cases may have plastic. This is real glass. And it looks like nothing is holding this glass in place other than these thumb screws. There's no sort of catch or magnet or anything like that. Not a door that swings open like yesterday's video. And these lesser known, sort of cheaper, less expensive cases. This is sort of a consequence of the lower price, as they do things cheaper. That is on way too tight, so I will need a screwdriver to loosen it. There's no reason for that to be that tight. When they're shipping, when the manufacturer is shipping, you can understand they don't want that glass bouncing around. So I understand that it's tight, but it's a little over tight if you ask me. None of the other ones were that bad. You probably want to take out the top screws last, because as you watched, as you could see, this glass was starting to tilt forward. And then that could crack the glass. So we're going to remove that. And we definitely do have more plastic here. Just set that down over here. Set this down over there. All right, we've got some documentation for whatever that's worth. Both sides. And we've got a little bag of screws right there. Using a wire tie to hold that through a power supply mounting hole for some reason. I don't know why they did it that way, but once again, when you look at when you look at the cases from the lesser known brands, this is pretty common where they just put every screw that you need in one bag, all mixed and mashed together. And notice the brass standoffs don't color match the case. Now they're going to be under the motherboard, but nonetheless, it's something the bigger brands don't do. And for people that, really take a lot of pride in their work, that may not be acceptable. However, you will have to spend more, or at the very least get a name brand case if you want that name brand look. Now, we can take the side panel off here. Once again, we've got thumb screws. And there's our side panel, lots of venting. Got a lip here for it to grip onto, and then nothing on the top or bottom for it to latch onto. So just to align this, you'll use this and then lock it into position with the two screws. Spinning it around, you can see all of our front port umbilicals here. And we've got another one of these inexpensive cases where they give us a single USB 3 type A. We have two USB 2s, just like yesterday. So this connector, when we plug that in, that feeds two USB 3s. So when we plug that in and we only get one, where does the other one go? You don't get it. You simply don't get it. Less expensive cases will do this. This is how they're making the case cheaper. God forbid they had to add another one of those, it would add a little bit of cost. So you only get one, but you do have two USB 2s. This one is slightly damaged, just a little bit, a little dent in it, but it should be okay. And then we have a headphone and microphone jack. We've got a reset button, that's good to see, power button, and it looks like power LED and hard drive LED. This is a mess. Look at this, it's just hanging. I don't know if it was actually stuck back here and it came loose in shipping, or if we're supposed to stick it ourselves. Oh, it won't even reach. Okay, well that's your fan controller. This is going to use those same 6-pin, what I consider proprietary fans. that are on the first time I saw them was on the Mustex builds, which are, again, cheaper, less expensive cases. We got tons of wire ties all over this thing, and I want to get them all off of here because you definitely don't want to leave these wire ties in your system when you're building. Get all of them. They're everywhere. It's like an infestation of wire ties. Here's another one. Where'd it go? Here's another one. Wow. Here's another one. We're going to figure all this out later. Right now, I just want all the cables, all the wire ties removed. Here's another one. I'll tell you what, for the price, you sure do get your wire ties worth. That's crazy. This isn't even holding anything, so it must have at some point, and I guess in shipping, it shook loose. So a lot of good it did to put these on. Not very effective. That's the other problem with them. You move the computer around, and you don't really do a good job putting them on. They just come right off. Then you've got a wire tie with metal in it floating around in your system, and if it gets back behind your motherboard and short circuits everything, the smoke comes out. Here's another one. And that's not a warranty issue. You caused it because you didn't build it properly. These wire ties are only meant for shipping. They're not meant for you to run your system with them. They don't really say that though, do they? Okay, so all of these cables, all of this mess right here, this is all for fans and RGB fans. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cables, seven additional cables because of I want the pretty lights. As for the cooling, these fans are not really going to make much difference. We could probably turn every fan off on this system, and this 13600K we're running with a good cooler on it wouldn't need it. Once you put a GPU in there, different story. Here's our hard drive cage. That's just above the power supply. We've got 4 screws that hold in this cage. And this cage could get in the way of our wiring the back of the board or putting a cooler on back here. But it's easy to remove, and that looks like it'll hold 2 2.5-inch drives. And I do see the holes back here. Sorry, 2 3.5-inch drives, and I see the holes back here for a 2.5-inch. Not quite sure if you could get another 2.5-inch drive in there or not. So yeah, that's going to be fun to cable manage. And then here's the other problem I just realized. We don't have all of this space for cabling, or we're going to be blocking the air on these fans. We want to, if we had drives in here, we'd only have this space, this narrow space, right about here to run all these cables. Otherwise, we let them hang in front of these fans, and then these fans are literally just for show because they're going to block the air coming out. And I don't know if you'll be able to see through the fans and see the cables. So there's definitely not as much room here because of the indentation here for these fans. If these fans were level with the board, we would have had a lot more cable management room. I'm not sure why they did that. Perhaps it's to make room for a liquid cooler. But yeah, it doesn't look like a liquid cooler can fit up on top. It's too narrow. We've already got fans up there, and if we were to put a liquid cooler in there, it would bring it down too far. The radiator would bring the fans down too far, and it would probably interfere with the motherboard. So you'd almost have to go here. But if you go here, you got to take these fans off, put your radiator in. Then you have to decide, do you want to use these fans on your cooler, or do you want to use the fans designed for your cooler? So, decisions. I think we stick with the air cooler personally, but I don't know. What do you guys think? I might have a 240 millimeter cooler laying around here somewhere, but just feel like it's kind of a waste for a 13600K. And again, we're really going for a look. It's more of an aesthetic decision than a cooling decision. Dave Batt joining us says hello. There's Christopher Horton saying hello. Rip City Raider renews membership. Right on. Thank you, Rip City Raider. He says, thanks, Carey and Mara. Keep up the good work. Will do. Thank you. David Graham with a $5 super chat says, thank you, Marlena DG, for your suggestion yesterday. Right on. Mark Gaines contributes 10 pounds. He goes, Carey, I've ordered the MSI Mag Pano M100R case and an MSI B650M Project Zero back connect motherboard. Oh, I think you're going to be real happy with it. You'll have to send us some photos once it's done. And Rip City Raider renewed membership, now a member 17 months. 17 months. Carey Thor said, I became a supporter due to Carey saving me a lot of money and headache in buying components for customers. Yeah. David Graham says, I'm not sure if that cooler is a good match. I don't know. I just feel like we're RGBing everything, right? So we have all the RGB fans. We've got the RGB RAM. Makes sense to me that we use the RGB cooler. Otherwise, we put a 240 millimeter in there. Did they even show the case with a liquid cooler in it? Let's see. Yeah, the marketing photos don't show a liquid cooler in this. In fact, they don't show it completely built. As far as I can tell, they just show an empty case. That's interesting because a lot of other case manufacturers show a completed build in their marketing photos. I feel like it's a little dishonest when they do that. I like to be able to see the case without the parts in it. I'd like to see both, quite honestly. But it seems like they either have a few pictures of the case that lack detail that's empty, and then one or two pictures of the case loaded with motherboard, power supply, all up and running. And a lot of times I use that as inspiration to try and replicate what the marketing company has done, right? Because they're paid basically to come up with a psychologically appealing look. They're not computer builders. It's like when they do commercials for food, the close-ups of the food isn't food. They're using rubber and plastic, and they're trying to make a sandwich look like it's real. They'll add paint and all kinds of things and make it look juicy, and you wouldn't want to eat it. It's not edible. They're not cooks. They're marketing people, and they're trying to make the product look as good as possible and as appealing to potential customers. And so when I see the marketing photos of cases with all the motherboard and everything installed, a marketing company did that, and they selected those parts for the way they look. It wasn't like they were just handed a PC in most cases and said, here, take a picture of this. The marketing companies do a lot of research and psychology, and if that's what they came up with, I'm going to not do all that work. I'll just do what they did. So here we don't have anything to go off of, to base it off of, which is fine. My curiosity right now is whether or not the standoffs are even in the right place. Got a feeling they're not. So to find out, I'm going to tip this down. Ooh, it's super lightweight, by the way. Very light. And let me get my glasses. Go back over to my main screen. There I am. Okay, so we've got 3 standoffs in the middle and at the end, which is just like regular ATX, whereas ATX is a bit wider and we'd have 3 more. So they'd be lined up 3 this way and 3 this way for a total of 9. The micro ATX boards typically have 2 screws on the edge of the board here that are much closer together, because not only is the board not as wide as a typical ATX board, it's much shorter. As I mentioned, when you count the number of slots here, the board's going to be shorter. That's why a regular full-size ATX board won't fit in here. It's too big, it's too long, it's often too wide. So I just want to see, first of all, if these standoffs are in the right place. So we've got 3, 1, 2, 3 along the right. 1, 2, oh, this one even takes, this is a pretty wide, either that or I'm holding it sideways. You know what, let me just set it down and look. I'm having a hard time picturing it in my head, especially if the orientation's wrong. So let me just pop it in here and see what it looks like. Oh, wow. Wow. I I didn't see that coming. What's happened is this board is actually too wide. Actually, let's see if I can pop one screw in here and flip it over and darn it. For a micro ATX board, it's wide. It's wider than most. And I didn't really notice anything in the John's boat case. And I don't know that it's that big of a deal, but it's kind of throws the whole thing off. Might change the board out. See what I can do here. I will show you the problem. All right, with one screw in it, I can flip this over now and show you. The board is overlapping these fans. See how wide this motherboard is? Most micro ATX boards are going to stop right about where my finger is. This board extends about another inch. Now, remember we have cables and such that are supposed to go on the edge there, like the SATA connectors, that would also overlap those fans and potentially get caught up in the fans. So as far as pairing a motherboard with a case, we can make it work, but it ain't right. That boy ain't right. What do you guys think I should do? Should I build it in there anyway, or should I try a different board? I think I have one more micro ATX board here waiting to go into something. And maybe, just maybe, it fits this case. I don't know. That's why I do the dry fit before I do anything else when I'm working with unfamiliar parts. Because we do have the Gigabyte B760M Gaming X AX DDR4 board that we purchased to go through the whole BIOS updates and Intel power level 1 and power level 2 settings. Dave Batt says use a smaller motherboard. David Graham says yuck, no. Dustin Fuller renews membership. Right on. Thank you, Dustin. Gary Tatum says I never understood why the front USB cable doesn't come with a clip. Well, it does have little keyed. It does click in. It doesn't have a clip, but at least unlike the audio cable or USB 2 that just pushes in with friction, the USB 3 cable does have little teeth on it that lock in, but not all motherboards will have the little holes in the socket. And when they do, it can be a real pain to get out. My problem with the USB 3 cable is how inflexible it is, and that's why when I'm doing cable management, hoses to a liquid cooler or the USB 3 cable are quite rigid and very difficult to hide away from the view of the machine. Thomas MacT says, do it, Carey. David Graham says a new board would be better. Harry Thor says, lose the fans, they're useless. Agreed, but we didn't put them in there. The case isn't being sold for anything other than the beauty of it. It's not a very good case as far as, the material's thin, it's very lightweight. The cables are a mess. This is meant to be a hot dog, essentially. It's going to look great, but when you work on it and you see how it's made, you probably may not like it. So I think what I want to do is just try this motherboard, see how it fits. Let's see where we go from there. Oh, and I want to take all these spare screws and put them away, since the bag they gave those screws to us was a sealed bag and not a reusable one. I saved my little reusable Ziplocs so I can do just this. All right, set this back down. Gary Tatum says, I would not put these two things together. Yeah, I'm on board with you there. It's on the fence, but the more I look at it, it's a nice board. And it's a nice case, but they definitely don't belong together. As far as when I say it's a nice case, I mean it's a nice looking case. I can already see pictured it in my head what it's going to look like when it's done. And I think it'll be spectacular. However, I just don't know if this ASRock board is a little abnormally long for a micro ATX. Let's find out. In fact, trying to get a good idea here just by setting one on top of the other. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, they're both exactly the same size. I think we're going to be in the same position. Let's see what happens. Now, if this is what's going on with micro ATX boards, they're all that big, then this really should be a mini ITX case, if that's what they want to do, they being the case manufacturer. Yeah, there's significant overlap here. I'll put that one screw back in and you guys can see. It's pretty much the same thing. The main difference, again, is that it's all black instead of the white and the silver, whatever you want to call that. But all the cables, like your power cable, USB 3, that all go over here are going to be in the way of those fans. What to do? Christopher Horton said, if it's function over fashion, that motherboard's just fine. No, it's fashion over function. It's really about the look. It's the aesthetic. Mark Gaines says, change the board. Yeah, we're right back to the same thing. Thomas MacT says, use a different motherboard, the correct size. Do it right the first time. I agree with you, Thomas, for sure. Christopher Horton says, you might need a smaller motherboard. Yeah, so the point that, the whole point of this exercise was to get rid of all the spare parts I've got laying around here and put it into a build. It occurs to me that with the two boards I've got, they're both the same size. This case really should have a mini ITX motherboard in it, is what it looks like. Either that, or I'll have to do some research on a micro ATX board that's not as wide. I don't normally pay attention to the dimensions as long as it fits the standard specifications that are allowed for ATX or micro ATX. And I think I'll leave a review on Amazon warning other buyers about this. That's definitely a surprise for me. But this is why I like to try all these different cases, to have these experiences. They're not always positive. There's often new challenges introduced and maybe new favorites are made. And other times it's like, glad that's over with. I don't want to do that again. I just don't know with this case. It's got a number of things I don't like about it. And I do feel like it's a little overpriced. It's $79. This is a $50 case, 60 bucks, 59 bucks, let's say. I think it's $20 too high. But maybe I have another idea. Maybe there's something else I can do. These are live and unscripted videos, as you well know, and I want to go through this stuff so you don't have to. In fact, I want it to feel like you're going through it with me, only you don't have the investment in the mess and have to deal with what's left over, right? So you get all the advantages of the experience without any of the trouble of storing it, setting it up, putting it together, struggling through any obstacles, and then doing something with it when you're done, right? Presumably you're making it for yourself or a friend. So what I'm going to do, this completely changes the plan for today's video now that I've experienced this unexpected obstacle here. What's also interesting, I just noticed they have all of these venting down here to put more fans, which is like we did in the Johnsbow build. Just ridiculous. And again, you'd want to put fans in that turn the opposite way. Otherwise, you're blowing air out the bottom and blowing air out the top, and you're creating a vacuum with no airflow over your components, which is the whole point of the airflow, is all the air moves in one direction, whether that's bottom to top, top to bottom, front to back. We don't have any airflow here at the front because of the glass. But we do have all the holes in the side panels, and then we have the holes down here. So it should breathe okay, but it's probably breathing It's probably coming in through the bottom, and then it's going out the back and the top, and the back here. So the airflow on this is probably a bit confusing, but as long as we don't go too crazy with too high-end components that get really hot, it's probably not going to be an issue. That being said, let me take this board back out. Let's try something completely different. That out. Let me go put this back and free up some room on this counter. So, what can we do? What can we do? Here's my thought. Let's not build in this case today because those are the two smallest motherboards I have and they're both too big. This will require a bit more research, which means ordering more parts, which is the last thing I want to do right now. This is the opposite of what I was trying to accomplish. I didn't want to have to get more parts. So let's put this back together. We'll keep the screws with it. And we'll just put those in there and the directions. Panels back on so I don't lose them. That did not go as planned. I've never seen that particular problem before, so I didn't know to look out for it. That's a new one for me. Just want to keep everything together so that when we work on this in the future, I'm not looking around trying to find the screws or the panels. Yeah, there's no airflow here. Just FYI. I got to remember to write all this in my review. Cable management issues, airflow issues, motherboard fitment issues, overall build quality. The metal's pretty thin. We're lacking a USB 3 port up here, which means we're losing it. We're paying $70 for a case to give up a USB port, which is terrible, unacceptable. And the fans are those 6-pin proprietary. So if one dies, good luck finding one that's going to match. Because these also have the logo for Apevia on them, and you'll want that to match. I'll have to look and see if Apevia sells those fans separately. Otherwise, you'll be replacing all 5 so they match. And if you don't get the 6-pin, you'll also be replacing the controller. That likely means all these fans spin at the same speed, regardless. That's the other downside. This is just for looks. This is a show queen. This is not a practical case. And that's fine. You know, it is what it is, but let's label it appropriately so we know to have proper expectations. Now, I do have another case in here. Is it micro ATX? Let me bring this other case out. It's brand new in a box. This is a mid-tower. This might hold a full-size motherboard, the S340 mid-tower Nzxt. Let's take a look at it. There's no picture of how many slots. 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. This looks like a full-size case. One more look around just to see. Yeah, that's all I've got. Rats. Okay, that's fine. We'll make it work. Fine. Grab my box cutter. I'll take it out of the box, put it up here on the Lazy Susan. Colors may match better with this board with a white case. What do you guys think? Either that or we just kind of stop where we're at, and I have to do research on Amazon to find the appropriate case, I suppose. What I'm trying not to do. Really Just trying to use what I have. Is that so much to ask? Apparently. So that's why I have a lot of these parts, is they're just all mismatched items that I said I'll deal with these later. Now I have to move them. So that's what's motivating me to get to them now instead of just naturally needing them as I'm doing a build, or some idea happens and comes together and I'm like, oh, I could do this. That's normally what happens. I just kind of go with the flow, kind of let circumstances guide me into, having some ideas. But going through all of it all at the same time is a little bit stressful. What the heck? What is going on? Okay, I don't know. Very strange. Guess I've never worked on an S340 from Nzxt before. Let me show you what's kind of got my attention here once I get it all out of the box. Looks like a piece is missing. Wow, that's freaking weird. Okay, so here's the case, right? Looks just like it did on the box. It's a bit bigger than I thought it would be, but it is full-size ATX. But if it's full-size ATX, that also means our micro ATX and mini ATX boards will fit in it, although they might look a bit small. Let's do the peel once again. That's plastic. Okay, so what's throwing me and why I feel like a piece is missing? Look at the top. It looks unfinished. It looks like something's supposed to be here. I don't know what this hole, I guess this hole is to just get your dust filter out? I don't know. There's a gaping hole. This is fully exposed. And there's all your USB ports, power button. Look, we get 2 USB 3s. What a shocker. Headphone, microphone, and hard drive LED right there. There's no reset switch. I usually find these fans are annoying and I take them out. They're annoying because they can get in the way of your cabling when you've got to put cables up at the top of the board. And they're also blowing air out the top, where you're also blowing air out the back with the internal fan. And you're not getting efficient airflow. I mean, pick one. Either go that way or go that way. The one in the back here doesn't get in the way of my cabling. This one often does. So oftentimes I'll just take those out. I've never worked on this case, so I don't know that that will be the same. However, let's get the rest of the plastic off of the panel here and see what it truly looks like. I mean, this case will be much easier to work on. I think these screws are captive. I think. Maybe not. Yeah. So the screws are held in for us, so we don't have to worry about losing them. And we can go ahead and do the peel here, this side. Set this down right there. Yeah, let's protect the camera lens. Because that's not going to work. I lost a few years. All the wrinkles went away. That's magic plastic. All right, just for grins and giggles, let's set the board in there and see what it'll look like if it's going to look too small. So there's our rear fan. Got a top fan, 2 SSD, 2.5-inch drive trays that you can take out if you want to. They're being held in with 1 thumb screw, and you can leave them in or take them out or use them with holes for cable management to hook up the data and SATA cables. That's really well thought out. Got this large area in the front, which I'm guessing This must come off. Does this come off? Yes. I'm not sure what this cutout is for. Those are just little alligator clips that hold the front on. Be careful not to break those. And you know which way's up because the NZXT logo is on the bottom. You've got a giant dust filter here. It doesn't have a track, it's just magnetic. I like that. Pop it on. And that is for incoming air. If you were exhausting air out the front, you wouldn't put the dust cover on. We don't filter exhaust air. Why would we want to keep the dust in the system? But yes, you can add, it looks like 2 120s or 140s up at the front. You could RGB those if you want to. And yeah, let me lay this down. Well, hold on. Let me take the back panel off too. Oh, that's pretty hefty. It's pretty solid. Hello? Is Dave there? Dave's not here, man. All right. Power supply is going to go in down here. We've got some loops that look like for cable management. We've got our box of screws and such needed for mounting the hardware. This is our front port umbilicals. You'll see the cable management is not as good on this NZXT as it is on the H7. However, you're not managing nearly as many cables as what we saw. And while we don't have the depth of the other case, we actually do have more room for the cables back here. Okay, let's see what it looks like in here. Now, all the standoffs will be installed by NZXT for a full-size ATX motherboard because that's what this case supports. I might turn this motherboard the wrong way. Yeah, so we will have to move some standoffs around, but just for the sake of seeing if we even want to do this, let's just pop it in here. I'll put one screw in. I can't see so good without my glasses. That's definitely not lined up correctly. That way up there. Oh yeah, that goes right up against this top fan. This top fan is really in the way. That's why on NZXT cases that have the top fan, I typically remove it. Throw it in the box. We don't even need it. There we go. So just one screw is all I need to hold that in. So I'll get the mounting hardware out of this box. Looks pretty good to me. Let's see what you guys think. Box with a bag, zip ties. These screws are, oh, look, each one's individually labeled. They don't just slap all the screws together in a mishmash in a sealed bag. You actually get labeled bags. This is really nice that NZXT does this and tells you what the screws are in each bag. Those would be used. The hexagon screws are typically the screws used on power supplies. And then in the next bag, look at how nice that is. Wonder what the price difference is between this and the other one. I bet it's not much. Those screws are typically used in solid state drives or DVD drives, which obviously we would not be putting into this case because it doesn't have a slot for it, as most cases have sort of moved on from that. We've got, what are these? 6/32. So those are kind of the same screw, but you notice the thread is very coarse. And on the other bag, the thread is really fine. And finally, it looks like they're giving us some spare. Where did my zip ties go? Did I take them out? Anyway, we've got a spare standoff with a little socket right here that fits over the standoff, and the other end is a Phillips. I like to use a proper nut driver, but there you go. I know there was more than one standoff in the bag. I must have tipped it and dropped them, but I don't see them on the floor. Or I took them out. That's what I did. I took them out. I just missed one. There we go. Okay, so the question is, which screw do we use to hold the motherboard down? It's going to be one of the short ones, and it's either going to be a fine thread or it's going to be a coarse thread. We just try, I suppose. These are the coarse ones. I'm betting it's the coarse, these 6/32 screw flat. I'm going to bet those are the ones that we're going to use for the motherboard standoffs, but I'm not sure. See what happens. Because I'm not sure, I don't want to rip the threads up on the screw or in the standoff. So I'll use a manual screwdriver and see if it threads in properly. If it doesn't, don't force it. Don't rip the threads. Again, I've never built in this case before, so I am just guessing. Where can I put the screw? Maybe up here in the corner. Going into something, turning real easy. No, there's no way the screw's that long. It's not lined up properly. So here's the other thing. It's very dark in there, so I need a flashlight. Flashlight and my glasses. Yeah, that's not lined up at all. It will not line up because of the fan. Isn't that crazy? This top fan is definitely in the way. I think I can force it, but what's happening is the shroud that covers the I/O panel, I'm sorry, it's not a shroud, it's a heat sink slash shroud on the VRMs and over the I/O panel. It's hitting the frame of the rear fan, not top fan. So I guess I'm not going to remove it after all. I will have to force it. I don't have a choice. That's the right screw. Okay, that did tighten. So, you guys tell me, what do you think this will look like? Do you think that board's too small for this case? Tell me your thoughts in the chat room. And that'll determine how we move forward with today's video. Christopher Orton says it looks like there's about a $12 difference between the cases, according to Google, with the Nzxt being more expensive. Just look it up on Amazon. David Graham says it's much better. Do you think that motherboard's too short? Look at all the space we've got right down here. Just nothing there. Oh, Luke Greeny got his all-in-one from Leon Lee, his liquid cooler. David Graham suggests moving the top fan down to the lower part of the front for better airflow. Yeah, we certainly have room in the front for a couple of fans. I hate to just put one there. I'd like to put two. But my main concern right now is, should I use this board? Harry Thor says, are those sides interchangeable? I'm not quite sure I understand your question. Now, the sides of what? Ron Barnish says I should send that a Pevia case back to Amazon. You know what? That's an option. I could totally do that. I just like the way it looks. That's all. I don't know. I really want to build in it. I don't have any use for it. I just want to build in it. Thomas McTee's like, yeah, send a case back. Christopher Horton says he loves the white cases and anything with wood grain. So you probably like the fractal design cases, huh? Thomas McT says, what size do these motherboards come under if not mini or ATX? Well, ATX is not one size. ATX is within a range with certain minimum and maximum width and length. Same is true with micro ATX. There are numerous form factor sizes that fall within micro ATX standards. It's not just one size. Mini ITX, on the other hand, is just one size. All mini ITX boards are the same size. But when you get to micro ATX and ATX, and then you have ATX-E, meaning extended, the server boards would be ATX-E. So you need a case to accommodate the extra width of the motherboard because it exceeds the standard maximum allowable width of an ATX motherboard. Typically, ATX motherboards are all going to be the same depth. So they go from the top all the way to the bottom. So you get all the ports. What range, where the difference in the micro ATX and ATX standards are, is typically not in length, but in width. And I've never had a problem other than with ATX-E, right? Fitting that in a board that maybe doesn't claim to be ATX-E, but it'll hold it. In this instance, run into a problem I just haven't seen before. The other thing I just noticed here, which is kind of weird, NZXT has an old Molex connector here to plug power in for something. What it's for? RGB on this thing? What does that do? Weird. Man, that's just weird. I think this is an older case. Let me take a look at Amazon real quick and see what this case, even if it's available. I've had it around here for a while. Amazon Nzxt S340. And let me go to the window capture and I will share with you what I'm seeing here. Let's see a model number. Oh, H5, that's an H5. Maybe the H5 replaced the S340. Is it really that old if I had it that long? Wow. Let's go to Google. Type in Nzxt S340. And we'll hit the shopping tab. Oh, wait, here, Newegg. Okay, matte black, blue steel, got 102 reviews, but what did it sell for? Clearly, it's not a product made anymore. And for good reason, the H5 is far superior in my opinion. And we've got white and black, and here they're showing red and black. Weird airflow going on there. Why this side would be going in and this side would be going out when they're right next to each other seems highly unlikely that it actually functions that way. Like as soon as the air gets sucked in, it's going to make a really shallow letter U and go right back out. Not good. Anyway, let's go to the shopping tab and see. There's one on eBay. Is there a new one anywhere? Now, this must be quite a bit old. One way I can tell how old something might be is to look for a review, Nzxt S340 review, and then look when the review was published, and that'll give you an idea. Did I type my search correctly? Did not. Okay, so a non-tech reviewed this case. Hold on. Date was right on it, right here. What? This can't be right. Oh, 2015. Okay. So if you're wondering how busy things get over here, I know I didn't get this case in 2015. It might have been a closeout sometime around 2018 or 2019. But if it was bought when it was new, it would be almost 10 years old. Holy cow. Okay. Well, that explains that. All right, let's go back over to camera one here. There we go. Back up. All right, let's see what you guys are saying in the chat room. Christopher Horton said, it looks good to me, but that empty lower half, well, it's not a lower half, but it's like a lower quarter. Bothers his OCD. It kind of blends in, though, in a way. Paul O'Brien says, I think it looks better than the other one. Yeah, I suppose. Is it, it's better, but is it right? You know what I mean? Like, that's the question. Are we better off putting a full-size board in here? Let me show you. Let's put a full-size board. Get a good image of this in your head, what this looks like. And then we'll put a full-size board and compare the way it looks. And we'll determine as a group which one is more desirable, which one looks better aesthetically. Remember, we got a big glass panel here. We're going to show this off. So we want it to look right. We don't have to use this board, even though that was my plan. Plans change. When you're watching these other videos, they go through all this. They just edit it all out so you never see it. I like to keep it in because I think this is more valuable information than what they're doing when they take out all the good stuff, all the mistakes and all the problems. That's the best part of the video, and that's what they leave on the cutting room floor. I don't want to do that. Let's take this board out. Set this aside and go grab a different board. Let's see what'll look good in there. We have another ASRock board that might look good in there. Yeah. Oh, you know what'll look good? On that ASUS, the build that we use with the ASUS Tough Gaming board, it's all black. This board here with the Laminar cooler already on it. Let's take a look at what this will look like. So like I said, I have a number of boards and other spare parts laying around. They're all going to have to be built into a case, one way or the other. And if my intention was to do the micro ATX and it's not going to work today, I still have these other ones just waiting for their turn. So we'll just change the order. See, now that just barely fits in there. The length of the board, literally from top to bottom, is just, it's so tight. It's right in there. So this rear case fan, this is making my life difficult, so I'm going to take it out. What's happening is the case fan frame is hitting the bottom of the plastic of the I/O shield shroud. It's making the motherboard difficult, not impossible, but difficult to put in. So I'm just, that cable's in there tight. Oh, they got it on got a little metal loop that the cable is stuck in to keep it from snagging, which is a good idea, but it also means that cable's going to stay in the fan is going to stay in the case. See if I can get those lined up this time. There it goes. And yeah, put one screw in there. I don't know why I put this back in the bag. It's dumb. I wasn't done with it. We'll just edit that out in post. About 6 years from now, you should see it. That's how busy I am. All right, let's just put one right here. How to do it. Okay. So I gotta watch that fan. I mean, in theory, I should be able to put the fan on much easier now. You just put one screw in it so it won't fall around. Great. What do you think? Christopher Horton says, I like it. And then there's the back I/O shield, all black against the white. And this power supply should also be black against the white. And then the top of the case is black. So we go with a full black and white build here. Now, there are motherboards that have a lot more white in them. Remember, we're going to have a big smoky glass panel here. We've got RGB RAM and that Laminar Intel RGB cooler. So this is our power supply, same as we used yesterday. It's a G3. These have been sitting around for a few years, so I don't even know that they sell the 550 G3 anymore. All of our cables, all modular. Let's put those there for now. They've given us a bag for those cables, thank goodness. They've given us some Velcro zip ties, or not zip ties, but cable ties. Finally, got the power supply and the bag of screws. Oops. And there's just a little bag of silica gel in there. Let's pop this bad boy in real quick. Get an idea what this is going to look like. It looks like there's a power supply frame here. Okay. I'd be okay with that. Let's take a look at this. I'm a big fan of the power supply frames when you have a shield, a shroud covering up the power supply. This is vented. There's a hole right here to run your graphics card power cable up. And then there's two holes here to run all your front port umbilicals, as well as what you can do behind this white panel. This white panel can come out, and instead you can mount your coolant for your custom liquid cooler. But I never do that. I'm not a plumber. So anyway, that's kind of neat. It's an NZXT thing. Yeah, so let's do this first. Let's come around here. Let's see if this actually is what I think it is. Can't imagine it could be anything else. It just doesn't look like it comes off. The paint match is so tight. Yeah, now I see the seam. Okay. So with our power supply, you have to sort of imagine it with the fan facing down. And this is going to go back on the same way we took it off. So we'll just lay it on top of it. Now remember, this is the part where the connectors go. So that's got to be inside the case. We want the fan facing down. So this would go on like so. I wonder if you could turn it around. Probably could. You'd probably go that way. I don't think it'll matter. Let me go put the screws in this. Let me come around this other side because I don't have any room over here to work. But I want to light this up, see what it looks like. There's nothing to hold it in position for you, so you need to line it up yourself. And this way is upside down, apparently. I need it the other way around because the holes won't line up that way. Now they line up. Don't tighten the screws down because you need to wiggle it and move it around to get everything to line up properly. Once all the screws are started loosely, all 4 of them, one in each corner basically, then you can tighten it down. Or you can tighten them down and go back and re-loosen them every time the next screw won't line up properly, so that you can move the frame a little bit. Now the last one we can tighten down all the way, so we've got everything else started. And then finally, oh, I get a plastic bag back. Look at that. Even Steven. Take one and give one. When it's all said and done, I love these power supply frames. I wish every case did this. So we got the white border, right? Just screwed on. Same way we'd have put the screws in the same place on a regular case. And now, and this is especially great because it's modular, we just slide that puppy in. And then we can just tighten the thumb screws down. It does need to be lifted up a little bit. Kind of sits. If without the screws, the power supply sits at an angle like this, and we don't want it like that. We want it completely straight so that fan can breathe. There's no real guide to finding the hole for the thumb screw. You just kind of have to lift up on the power supply to keep it from tilting, and even raise it to get the screws to line up. There's, oh, I almost had it. Okay, there's one. And again, you just want to start them. Once you get the first one started, the others should line up super easy because that's going to hold the power supply in position for you. I don't want to tighten these all the way down just yet, but we want to just, you know what? I won't over tighten. I'll just make them finger tight here. I just want to see how flush this looks with the rest of the case. This does seem to be going together quite well. All right, so I need motherboard power. I need whatever the heck this is. This only has 2 pins in it, this Molex connector. I don't know where it's going or what it's doing. It looks like it's connected to a 3-pin fan, which means that fan's going to run full speed. This, I see what's happening here. I have 3 wires coming out of the Molex connector. I only have 2 wires. This is really dumb. I don't like this one bit. Here's what Nzxt did, and I'm glad they don't sell this case anymore. This is your normal 3-pin fan header for the rear case fan. Got that zip tie cut. we're going to do a little CareyIzing. We're going to CareyIze this case. And what that means is we want to get rid of any unnecessary connectors or adapters that could potentially be a problem. And having that big fat Molex connector just doesn't make any sense to me because it's very difficult to cable manage connectors that are that big. But if you look, this is just a fan splitter. That's all this is. It's a waste. We're not going to use it. So I wouldn't hook this fan up personally, although we can. But now we have just two 3-pin fan headers that we can run onto the board. I realize I only have one screw in the board, but I just want to move this along real quick just to see what it looks like because I haven't made up my mind that this is what I want to use. We've got a drive bay down here that holds two 3.5-inch drives. This is the back of that white piece there that just three screws, 4 or 5. Wow, they did this very different. You can remove that piece if you need to get in there, but there's a big opening here for our big motherboard power cable and such to go right through. Super easy. Yeah. We don't have much in the way of cable management to get to the bottom of the board, right? Because if I want to plug this in down here, look how tight that cable is. I mean, could I even do it? Is it even possible? We can come in down here. There is a fan header. Oh my gosh. There's a fan header right there, and I mean, it just fits. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Now, if I look at the power supply cables, let me get the bag out. We don't need that Molex connector anymore, so that's one less cable to manage. This is CPU power. We will need that. This is that aforementioned Molex cable we're not going to use. Here's a SATA cable in case you're running some 2.5-inch drives or 3.5-inch drives. Here's again, an adapter cable to go to a small 4-pin power. I don't know why they bother. Power cable, we definitely need a power cable. Video card power, which we're not needing because we're using onboard video. We get 2 of those. And another SATA cable. And then finally, motherboard power. The rest of these cables are for, you know, the owner of the computer for future work or changes. Peter VZ joins us in the chat and says hello. Welcome in, Peter. I think I'm going to hook up to the motherboard first. So we'll just run that 12-volt EPS power, CPU power cable in. Come around this side because it's not connected on the other side. It's really loose and flexible, more so than I'm accustomed to. Plug that in with the clip facing on this board on the outside. On most boards, it's on the outside, but sometimes, you know, don't get too confident. So I'm saying you got to check it. Super dark. This fan is a little bit in my way. Come on now. Fight me. Wow, that is a super tight fit. And it's dark. There it goes. Okay. And we'll reel in the slack. We can bring that down to the motherboard. And then we have our motherboard power cable right here. Once again, I'm going to go to the board first. So come in here. Bring that around. Clip goes on the outside on nearly every motherboard I've ever seen. And I know I'm blocking the camera, but if I don't, I can't see. And between the two of us, I really do need to see. So that puts that connector on. Now it's a matter of hooking those cables up to the back of the modular power supply. And we can do that one of two ways. I can just reach in here and plug them in. We have a lot of room. Or I can just remove the 4 thumb screws, right? That's why I didn't want to tighten them down. I kind of wanted to get a look at it. And with the power supply able to remove like this, even though I can get my hands in there, this is way easier, and I can show you. We need to go to these connectors up here. The bottom row of connectors, that's for SATA ports, and these are for video cards. So these two are the motherboard power, and this last one, that's CPU power. So real easy, we just pull the cables through here. This is my, oh, I put it on backwards. So the cable will plug in either way, but see how it splits? That's the part that goes to the board. I have put this on backwards. The good news is, it's very easy to fix that right now. Just feed in the other end. Do this process one more time. Now this will be a little difficult because I have to hold the two pieces together. Let's see how I'm going to do that. They don't lock in together for some reason. On modern power supplies, there's usually a pin or a slot. I'll just try this. So the other thing I can do if I want to make my life a little easier is leave the cable out altogether. Turn the case down so I can work on it with gravity, looking straight down. I'm going to hold these two connectors together. And then the one thing I'm missing is just a bit more light. So let me grab a flashlight real quick, and that should be the final piece of this little puzzle. Now remember, if I decide to keep this in there, I got to put all the screws in the board. I'm trying to do this quickly because we kind of ate up a lot of time with the other board. I want to get this done within our regular time schedule. I think I got it on there. Okay, now with the cable on the motherboard up there in that top corner, and again, this would have been a lot easier if I had taken this fan out. Now I can take the other end of the cable and feed it through. And that makes life just a little bit easier as far as getting it wired up. Now, depending on the case, depending on the motherboard, depending on the power supply, cabling could be easier, could be more difficult. We want to run this through here, and we're going to put it on the back of the power supply where it says CPU. There's a little notch. You cannot plug it in backwards. Now, the motherboard power is often on a modular power supply split from one big connector to two medium-sized connectors, and that's why on the back of this power supply, these two connectors represent, it says MB for motherboard. That's pretty standard on most modular power supplies, if you didn't already know that. And then we'll just bring these through, like so. And we'll plug in this one there. I heard the click. Now, we can do this one more time. Slide that back in there. You know, I'm thinking what might be easier is using my electric driver to, now that the cables are on, the power supply is a little bit more difficult to manipulate. But again, once you get one in, the rest should just be very, very close to where the hole is for the screw. And again, I don't want to tighten this too much. I might just end up taking this apart, but I'm really liking it. Right now, I feel like I'm probably going to go ahead and complete this. I want to see what it looks like when it's turned on. So we can get the front port umbilicals hooked up right quick. See, now NZXT, they make all these one cable now. So this is old. This is old school. I can work with that. So this right here, this connector is our HDD LED. So with the positive. Positives on the left side. And we want to go to this very bottom connector here. It'd be the first 2 pins on the bottom row of the front panel connectors here. They always go horizontal. They never go up and down. And you can refer to your manual for where everything is, but they're all pretty much, well, they're all in the same place. So get that slack out of the way. Finally, we have the power switch and the power LED. The power LED with the positive cable at the far end of basically just above the hard drive LED. Positive and negative on the 2 pins above the hard drive LED. Positive above positive and negative above negatives. That all flows with logic. And then the power switch goes on the next 2 pins beside the power LED. The motherboard is moving a lot because I have not secured it with screws. So as I'm putting these cables in, you will see this board wiggle. And that's why we use all the screws, right? And in this cable, we can adjust it to make it look cleaner, and we can adjust this to make it look cleaner. But at this point, with just those cables hooked up, I think we can turn this guy on. Let's see. Power. Video. Some case is sitting on my cable. Video. This board has Wi-Fi, USB Type 3, Type C. It's got 2 of them. It's a nice motherboard, if I don't say so myself. Now we should have Windows already installed in prep. This should be a prepped motherboard. And then I need a keyboard and mouse. I have not hooked up our front USBs, okay? So if I plug my keyboard and mouse in there, it's not going to work. That's a builder problem, not a warranty problem. That's a tutoring problem, not a technical problem. So let's plug this in the back so we don't have that problem. Any USB port will do. And then finally, we'll flip the switch on. We'll turn eco mode on. And we'll hit the power button and see what happens. We're going to cut the lights. And just for show, let's see what it looks like. Again, I'm just trying to get an idea of what the finished product is going to look like. It'll help if I don't pinch a cable. I don't have the panel on straight. Do I? No, I don't. Because that cable was in my way. Now it should line up. Big Windows updates came out yesterday, so this machine is probably downloading those in the background. There. Okay, what do you think? Let's go over to the HDMI input. Let's see that this thing actually booted because, you know, it looks pretty, but does it do anything? That's the main question. So we'll go over to turn off camera 1 here for a second. We ran into a problem and it needs to restart. Well, that's unexpected. I'm gonna turn it off. Wait a second, and then we'll turn it back on. Here we go. Let's see what happens. Is it going to boot? What's going on? What's it doing? Repairing automatic. Oh, that's why. I see. It's going into troubleshooting mode. I don't want to troubleshoot it. I just want to restart. I have no idea why that happened. Device ran into a problem and needs to restart. Will restart for you. Huh. Well, that's a new one. We'll let it restart on its own. See what it does. In theory, these boards were ready to go with Windows and drivers and everything. So we haven't changed anything other than putting it in a different case. And now it seems happy. I have no idea what that was all about. Very strange. But now that it's up and running, we can go to Windows Update. Maybe there's an update that it doesn't like. I don't know. Could be a patch, driver update. Why do we have AMD Adrenaline? Why is that there? Oh, I'm confused now. What is going on? Why would AMD Adrenaline? Hold on, let's run. Yeah, there's something funky happening. This is an Intel build, isn't it? Z690. Why is Adrenaline on there? Did I move an installation drive off of this one? We're doing that. Okay, this is very, very confusing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe the drive clean. I got so much going on here. This is probably my fault. Well, nobody else would be doing it but me. It's obviously my fault. I'm going to put my Windows 11 USB drive in, and we're going to just do a full restart here. Find out what the heck is going on. AMD Adrenaline software is on. It's really bizarre. Let's see if I can restart and go into the BIOS. Let's take a look. Make sure this is an Intel system. Sure it is. Sometimes if the motherboard was placed on the wrong box. Yeah, this is an Intel Intel Core i5 12600K, 32 gigs of RAM. So what I want to do is go to the advanced mode, go to exit, no, boot, and I want to boot to the UEFI Windows 11 USB installation media. And then I'm going to wipe the drive clean and start over again because AMD Adrenaline software shouldn't be on there. Next. Install. Don't have a product key. It'll automatically reassign the product key for Windows 11 Pro. Read the license agreement. Always choose custom install. And we're going to delete all 4 partitions. Nothing on these drives anymore. So this was probably set on my to-do list and I just completely forgot about it. But this is how, I always say I'll get to it. Then when I get to it, I cannot remember. So now we're back to just one drive here. 2 terabyte drive. Next. And now it's going to partition, format, and install all of the files necessary to install Windows 11. it reboots and then uses those files to install Windows 11 with the flash drive no longer being necessary. I usually just leave the flash drive in until we're done, but that's what that first boot is all about. So right now it's just preparing everything. So, okay guys, I'm just grabbing a cold Gatorade here, and while we wait, visit in the chat room. Let me go back to camera 1. And what I'm going to do is just put it up in a corner so we can keep an eye on both things. Uh-oh, got an error. Hold on, this is new. What does this say? Windows cannot install. Oh, very interesting. So what might be happening when we get errors like this, quite often it's RAM-related problems. So I'm going to turn this off. Just hold the power button in until it shuts down. It should be about 10 seconds. I want to pull my Windows 11 flash drive because now we have a hardware problem, not a software problem. And I can pull a memory stick, or I've got my bootable Nzxt 86 flash drive. Now, Nzxt 86 can take a while to run. However, if there is a memory issue, we know we have bad RAM, and RAM cannot be repaired. You just pull it out and send it back for warranty. A lot of RAM has a lifetime warranty, but RAM is so inexpensive, it may be cheaper to just buy new RAM, honestly. You need to buy it in pairs, and if you need to send it back for warranty and you bought it in a pair, you have to send back the match pair, even though there's nothing wrong with the other one. That leaves your system inoperable for at least 2 to 3 weeks, because it takes about a week for you to ship the RAM and get it to the manufacturer. The manufacturer has to verify it, verify the problem, verify the warranty, the serial number, make sure they're not getting scammed. They put a brand new kit of 2 sticks together, just like you would bought. They give you a brand new one. They send it back, takes about a week to get it back. And in warranty, you just pay for the shipping to them. They pay for the shipping back. Takes a while. So it might just be faster, maybe a little bit more money to go buy another set of RAM. Get it overnight from Amazon, for example. So what I want to do once again is I want to boot from, turn this off again. I want to boot from the USB, so I'm going to tell the BIOS, go to advanced mode, which is F7, or you can click on advanced mode. I go to boot. I should see my USB in here. Yep. Silicon power, 8 gig, partition 1. So now it's going to restart and it's going to boot to that Nzxt 86. And this is a hands-off thing where we just let it run. And if it comes up with any errors, we don't need to let it run any more than that. All right, so if it doesn't come up with any errors, we got something else going on. Maybe a memory incompatibility. Maybe there's a BIOS update. This worked before, so I don't know why it's not working today. Maybe it's a grounding issue because I don't have all the screws into the board. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities. You've heard the expression, haste makes waste. Slapping this together so quickly, I might have missed something. Well, this board did work. We prepped this live on camera. This is the Z690 Plus Wi-Fi from ASUS. And again, it was purchased to test the Intel power level stuff with the motherboard BIOS updates. And there's probably a new update for this board. Now, what we're looking for on the screen, what it's telling us on the screen is it's going to run 13 different types of tests. And each test takes a few minutes. This whole test will take a varying amount of time depending on how fast your system is and how much RAM you have. So it'll do 4 full passes of 13 tests for a total of, 52 tests. We don't need to go through all 4 passes. If we can do 1 pass and there's no problems, likely there's no issue with the RAM. A lot of times when you have bad RAM, that black space there in the bottom half of the screen, that'll start listing in red errors. That means one of the segments of the RAM module itself is bad, and you don't need to run the test anymore. Just turn the machine off, take out one of your RAM modules, start the machine again with memtest. If the errors come up again, turn the machine off, unplug it, pull the remaining RAM module out, put the one you took out prior back in, and run the test. If that comes up clean, you know which module is bad, and that's a time-consuming thing. Now, I could also just pull the RAM module and try and reinstall Windows. I can try putting all the screws in the board and then taking a closer look if I've grounded anything by mistake, because this board worked fine. I can also look for an updated BIOS, although it doesn't explain why the board. We did this board live on camera and we didn't have any problems. So I'm stunned, completely blindsided by this. If you look at the text in green, sorry, if you look at the thing that's highlighted just below the green text up there, it tells you which of the 13 tests it's running. So right now it says running test 5. So we're not quite halfway through this. And each test has a loop it goes through. And the reason why it wants to do 4 passes is it wants to heat up the RAM and see if the problem happens as it gets hot. I have found, for me anyway, if there's an error there, it's going to pop up in the first test. It's very rare that you'll see it goes through pass 1, pass 2, pass 3, no problems. And then on pass 4, it gets a fill. It does sometimes happen, but it's pretty rare. You'll also notice the text at the very far right, bottom right of all the text. That's all at the top. Look at the very bottom. It says errors 0. And if we can go through all 13 tests and get on to pass 2 with 0 errors, I'm pretty confident we don't have a RAM issue. And while we're waiting, let's look up what the latest BIOS is for this board, because it's likely that there's a new one out. This is the ASUS Z690 Plus Wi-Fi. I'll type in the word BIOS. And it's showing a new BIOS as of, oh, it's beta. As of 3 days ago. No, 5 days ago, the 9th of August. That's brand new. I'm going to download that and put that on a flash drive while we're waiting. I'll just use the streamer for this right quick. And let me grab a flash drive out of the drawer here. Just a basic, simple flash drive. We'll plug it into the streamer and copy that BIOS update right here onto this small flash drive, 8 gig flash drive. And we'll just copy and paste that file. Pretty small file. And we're copied. And I'll close all my windows. And I realize you can't see all of this, but there's only so much I can fit on the screen. Peter VZ with a €1 contribution in Super Chat. Right on. Thank you, Peter. Dustin Fuller renews his membership. Right on. Okay, so with the BIOS now on this flash drive, how are we doing on our test? Yeah, I mean, we're sailing through this without any problems. And you can see this can take a while. So what I'm going to do right now, we're on test number 7. It is important you run all 13 tests, okay? Because, yes, I have seen where errors only occur on test 13. But I don't want to sit here staring at this on a live video. So instead, because I'm not getting errors right away, I'm going to just go ahead and conclude the RAM is probably okay. Let's update the BIOS. It is a beta BIOS, but it can't get any worse, right? So we're going to press the delete key over and over and get back into the BIOS. And we'll do that BIOS update live. We always do. Okay, let's get rid of camera 1 so you get a full screen of the BIOS. And we want to go to the advanced mode. And over to Tool. Easy Flash Utility is what we want. And it already finds the BIOS file on that flash drive. Click OK. I couldn't even read what that said. Do you want to read this file? Yes. And it verifies we got the right BIOS for the right board. Now it says it's processing and updating. I usually get a screen that confirms everything, but maybe I buffered a click there. This is BIOS version 3802. Does it tell us? Yeah, we're at 3701 and we're going to go to 3802. You see 3701 in the top middle of the screen. That's our current version. And at the middle, at the bottom says 3802. Right now it's processing clearing the database. We keep hands off, just let it do what it needs to do. It may take, 3 to 5 minutes. That's normal. It will reboot 1 to 3 times in the process. So my suggestion, of course, is leave it alone until it's done. And while we're waiting, let me go into the chat room and see what's happening here. Well, either my chat isn't updating or you guys are being quiet. Mara's trying to keep up with the video notes, and she said that she's updated the CPU and CPU cooler in the video notes. Christopher wants to know if it could be a RAM or solid state drive problem. Anything's possible. It's just bizarre that it just started today. Again, the board was prepped and didn't show any problems. This looks like a pretty major BIOS update to be taking this long, but again, it's going to take what it's going to take and leave it alone and let it do its thing. As a reminder, the system is rebooting itself. We are hands off. Just let it do what it wants to do here. Well, the post may take longer than normal. This is normal. Leave it alone. Give it time. It'll get back. There you go. Okay, F1 to enter the BIOS. And I want the BIOS defaults just to be sure everything's okay. Then we'll save and exit. That's usually F10. Okay. And then I'm going to pull the flash drive for the BIOS out, put Windows 11 back in, just to see if it makes any difference at all. Okay, Windows 11 flash drive is in. System is rebooting. It's taking a while to post, but again, we'll just leave hands off here. Try this again. With only 3 partitions, it looks like it did not install in UEFI mode. That usually means we're in legacy mode. It could have been a BIOS setting that was wrong and causing all of this. All right, we'll find out. Let's see what happens. All right, I think we got this far last time, but let's see what happens. Installing Windows in and of itself is a pretty good burn-in test for a lot of machines. I just realized I left the Ethernet cable plugged into it, so I just unplugged it. I might have been auto downloading some updates. And now it's realizing the internet connection's not there anymore. So we got to, we're resetting. That's fine. And then hopefully we'll get through this without any more errors. I also want to make sure we're in UEFI mode. Again, we should see the 4 partitions, which normally don't show up under disk management, but we can check MS Info 32. All right, we got much further this time, didn't we? So go through our standard practice here. See. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and remove the Windows 11 flash drive. We don't need that anymore. And hopefully this will complete normally. What it should have done the first time, we're right at the 2-hour mark. So what do you think? Should I keep this board in here, go ahead and secure it down and call it a day? Or pick a different board, something that's white to go in there? What do you guys think? We made it. We did it. Now that we are at the desktop, I can plug the internet cable back in, plug our Ethernet back in. And I need to go full screen on my side. So let me do that. So I can see it the way you guys see it. Let's say, do I want to download? Yeah. Close that. This will help us get all the drivers that are missing. If we go in the device manager right now, we're probably missing a bunch of drivers. Right click on the start menu, go to device manager. And yeah, all of this stuff needs drivers. And the Armory crate will put all that in for us, or at least it's supposed to. So we'll let that do that. And while that's happening, the date and time should be auto updated, and we can also visit Windows updates. However, when we do Windows updates and this at the same time, it's going to slow us down, which is great if you're going to walk out of the room and go do something else for a while. But on a live video, it's like, watching grass grow. So we'll let the Armory crate do its thing. And then we bring up camera 1 again. Right mouse. There I am. And we'll see if you guys have any other final questions. I think you know the routine from here, right? We're going to download all the drivers. We're going to download all the Windows updates. And I think I can just go ahead and put all the missing screws in and keep it. I wanted to get a visual of it, see what it looked like. And again, if I go full screen on camera 1 and I cut the lights to the studio, you get a nice visual of what that looks like. So what I like about it is none of the fans are RGB. The only thing that's RGB is that cooler and that RAM. So the RGB is very visible, but it's not in your face gaudy. So if we had RGB all across the front and stuff like that, I think it'd be a bit too much. A lot of people complain if the PC's in their room with RGB that they can't sleep at night. It's too bright. So Yeah. Peter with a €1 contribution. Was that the same one from before? No, it's a different one. Thank you, Peter. Looks like a driver is going in or something. The system. Why did the system reboot? Oh, it didn't reboot. I'm looking. My stream is delayed. So the YouTube Studio stream, which should be right up to the minute, for some reason is delayed, and I have to refresh the screen in order to get caught up with where we are in the video. I just don't understand why that happens. Now that's better. Now we're caught up. And of course, I've got the front off of it, but you know, it's a solid white front there. I could pop that back on. Or I can use this motherboard in a different build that might be a little more, I don't know, appropriate. It works, don't get me wrong. I don't know how I feel about it. Al Perez says it looks great. Well, thanks, Al. Yeah, maybe just keep it the way it is. I still have several more motherboards to build, and I don't want to spend too much time with one, especially since it's not sold to anybody. It's really just for the channel and for the educational purposes of creating this type of content. I try to treat these videos the same I would as when I was teaching in a classroom, right? It's not a place for challenging the instructor and stuff like that. That's why we've restricted the chat room between the bots, the spam, and the distractors and disruptors. It's very hard to continue the class. Now, from time to time, I will do sort of a freewheel video. It might be late at night, or it might be on a broadcast day where I just want to talk to you guys, see what's on your mind, talk about the news. But when we intermix those together, it gets us way off track. And by making the chat members only, that's really helped remove, not completely, because I still will go off on a tangent from time to time, but nowhere near as bad as it was. And if you want to consider becoming a member and join us and interact with me during the live chat, we'd love to have you. The public is watching. They just need to be members to chat, because the free chat room just opens up an invitation to spammers, bots, and disruptors and harassers. So also, we're trying to stay away from being a big corporate sponsored commercialized channel. Like to keep everything real and unbiased without consequences, and to share with you my real world job of fixing computers, building computers, upgrading computers. I've been doing this over 30 years. I'm not an enthusiast. I say I'm not an enthusiast, but really I'm the pinnacle of enthusiast. Because if you're just having fun with it, that's an enthusiast. But if you're going to do it for a career and your ability to eat and pay the rent relies on it, that's another level of enthusiast, right? There's somebody who plays baseball at the park on the weekends, and then there's somebody who joins a baseball team and it has to be there. And that to me shows a real enthusiasm to dedicate your life to it as I have. And all I want to do is share my experience with you. Sometimes people feel differently, but without 30 years of professional industry experience, it's not, I'm not telling people what to do. I'm simply sharing how I do it. And if I do it wrong, I go out of business. So I don't need somebody to tell me a different way to do it unless it's affecting whether or not I get paid. So what I'm trying to do is simply share the experience with you guys. You can choose to take that information to your benefit. You may choose to dismiss it. It may not apply to you. But I do have a business to run, and my livelihood depends on it. So sometimes people come into the channel and they think, you know, I don't listen, or I'm not considering other people's ways. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to teach you guys. I do learn from you guys, don't get me wrong. But there is a certain set of viewers that don't understand I'm running a business. They don't get it. So it's critical to my livelihood that my business continues to stay alive, and it's fine, don't get me wrong. But when somebody tells me, how to run my business, the first thing I need to know is, who are you and why should I listen? Like, what experience do you have? And they don't do that. They just pop in with a random made up username. We don't know who they are, and they absolutely insist we listen to them. They are the ones who know. And it's because of this primarily that the chat room has been restricted, just in case. It's way too disruptive, and they're just not understanding the point of the channel. They're not getting it. So that ends up with them defending their ignorance by insulting me because they don't understand what they're watching. And I've had enough of it, quite frankly. So that's why we're at where we're at. And I will let them watch. But if they want to interact with me, they need to support the channel with more than just their mouth. And you guys have shown that sacrifice and allow us to continue to buy products and be independent and not be controlled by what we're allowed to say or what we're allowed not to say by a corporation paying us, or we don't get paid. I really don't want to go down that road. And your support is what's keeping us independent. And for everybody else watching the video without any support, I'm glad you're watching. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you appreciate our community that made this video possible. Without them, there'd be no video today, bottom line, without you guys. So a super shout out again to our friends Peter, we call him Buster out in Scotland, Frankie B, Oystein, all of our members, everybody in chat, people watching later. Of course, Mara running in the background, doing all of the administrative work to the channel. There's a lot of work to be done there. And to all the viewers, we appreciate you. We hope you'll consider becoming a member here. The more members we have, the more videos we can make and the more elaborate content can be. We stay within a certain budget, which is determined by the number of supporters we have. And that dictates what we can and cannot do, or what we can and cannot afford to bring you content. Sometimes we get companies that send us products for free in exchange for a review, but no contract, no NDAs. Companies like B-Link, Ace Magic, Minis Forum. We've got a Synology to review. They sent us a Synology unit for us to review, and thank goodness, because if we would have bought it, we'd be in about $2,000 for one video, one day. There's 30 days in the month on average. And if we're making content this often, $2,000 a day is not sustainable. So thankfully they sent it to us in exchange for a review, no contract, no limitation or what I'm allowed to say or not allowed to say. And those are the conditions when we accept free products. We're offered a lot of free products we have no interest in, just so you know. And I just politely decline them. So that's on the back end of things. That's stuff now that Mara's taking care of, setting up those deals or declining those deals. If you have emails and you click the About page here on YouTube, you'll get the email address that it goes to the channel that Mara is the administrator of, and she will address your email. Better to send it to the channel than to send it to me directly because of how crazy everything is with the move. All right. All of that is done. Our thanks to our friends at Acronis, the cloning and imaging software I use and have been using in my business for at least 15 years, and probably more than 15 years now. Of course, RoboForm, the password manager I've been personally using for over 15 years. That's why I reached out to these companies and said, hey, could you offer our viewers a discount? And they did. Both RoboForm for new clients only, 30% off. For Acronis, 30% off any of their products for all of our viewers. And then, of course, we've got our friends at VIP CDK Deals, where I get my Office and Windows license keys. They're fully legal. Fully legal. If you don't believe me, ask Microsoft. Do your research. Not everybody selling keys on the internet is doing it legally. VIP CDK Deals is. So that's the sifting I had to go through to find a good, solid, supported, guaranteed product key seller that was real. You have no idea what a mess of product key sellers there are and how many of them are selling illegal keys. Or, yeah, I'd say they're stolen or they're required in a way that's not on the kosher side. So when I found a VIP CDK Deals and they passed all of my requirements, so happy. So you have peace of mind for anything we're endorsing here. Again, they don't tell me what to say. None of these companies do. They're products I use myself in my real life business. So I'm giving you an insider's look into how the business is running behind the scenes. You can use that to your advantage or not. It may not apply to you. Luke Greenia says Project Zero's been running great. It's been great therapy for him. Loving it. Thank you. Right on, Luke. We'll take care of that. That's one of my children, that Project Zero. Luke's out there in Vermont, and he purchased Project Zero from us, the micro ATX version. We still have the full-size ATX version of Project Zero here. That thing was almost $200 to ship that from Arizona to Vermont. That was the cheapest shipping I could find with FedEx Ground. The good news is it had a little bit of, the fan came off of the cooler, but it just pops back on. There was no other damage. Everything's fine. Yeah, it was very expensive to ship. And Mara also mentions GeekCom and TerraMaster. Yes, we've worked with GeekCom and TerraMaster as well to receive free product to review without any contract and without any stipulation. Those are the stipulations. We've had companies really push. For example, we had one the other day that said, hey, would you review our mini PC? It's a company I've never heard of. And I'm like, sure, I'd like to review, a mini PC I haven't seen before. And they said, well, when you're done with it, could you mail it back to us or send it to another reviewer? That's a weird request. I'm happy to get rid of it when I'm done with it anyway. So, okay. And then they said, would you do it before the end of August? Now, we don't even have it yet, and we're in the middle of a move. And would you say these things? And what they're doing is they're trying to get a free commercial out of me. And it starts with the free offer, and then they squeeze to see how much they can get. And they're not paying me. They're not offering any payment. Just like, we'll send you the computer, and then you can return it to us. That in and of itself is very insulting. But I don't mind that. But then when they ask for more on top of that, it's like, you know what? No, that's not how we work. You send it to us first. Once we have it, we'll try to do the review within 2 weeks of receiving it. Normally, we keep the products. It's too time consuming to package everything up, take it to the post office. So if we have a local use for it, we'll use it and do a long-term test. Otherwise, it goes on a shelf, and sometimes things come up and we're able to use them again, and other times they just sit. In the meantime, just to give you a taste of some of the email requests we get, where they start out very promising and then they get real sketchy. It's like, what kind of support are people going to get? If you're in China and you're trying to get this review done basically for free, and you want me to pass the same unit on to another reviewer so you can get another review for free, what if one of my viewers buys your product and they have a problem with it, and you're in China and they're here in the USA? What then? What kind of support are you going to offer? And I suspect none. Mailing something back to China from the US is extraordinarily expensive. You might as well just throw the thing away and buy another one. And that concerns me if I'm doing a product review and you guys go to buy it and you have a problem with it, and then you find out after you have the problem, there's no real support there between the two, because the distance between the two countries is so great, and the company that makes the mini PC is on such a small budget. So you might find the machine appealing for the price, but then likely the reason why the price is so low is there's no support staff, likely. And then that's when we back out of the deal. That's when the email says, I don't think this is going to work, but thank you for reaching out to us. And so that happens. And that's why it's so important to have Mara doing all the administrative stuff, because that goes back and forth and back and forth. And then a lot of them are fake, and they want you to click on something to infect your system. We must get half dozen of those a day. Hey, we're from Hershey. No, you're not. We're from Nike. No, you're not. And what they're trying to do is get you to click on something so they can steal your login cookie or token off your browser, just like what happened to Linus Tech Tips. But it's never happened to us, and it never will, because we're in control of that. So anyway, it's a big mess, and it comes with getting bigger and bigger. As the channel grows, we get more offers, and a lot of those offers are completely fraudulent. I should show you some of them someday. They're pretty funny. Some of them look real, but you'll see an address coming from Poland or it's a European country. I can't think of what it is, but they'll say in their email address who they are, but then you look at where it's actually going, and they're all mostly going to the same country, which is a big red flag for me. But yeah, I should show them to you because some of them are pretty convincing. And they'll want you to click on a link that goes to Google Drive or Microsoft OneDrive or Dropbox. And they'll say it's password protected. You got to enter the password. It's password protected because it's a virus and the password encrypts the file so that Google Drive or whatever cloud storage, because the file's encrypted, they can't read it and they don't know it's a virus. So you download the file thinking, here's the video we want you to run. So you download the file from their Google Drive, which no professional company would be using Google Drive. They'd be using their own servers, right? It'd be the name of the company .com/ whatever the directory is that they're storing their files. So it's usually, Dropbox, Google Drive. It's password encrypted so that the cloud service can't read what's in it. Then you download it, you extract it with the password, and boom, as soon as you run that file, could be an Adobe PDF file, like whatever it is, it'll grab your login tokens and send it to them in seconds. It's already done. And at that point, they can log in as you on YouTube. They can erase all your videos. They can post videos of Elon Musk telling you to buy Bitcoin that are completely fake. This has happened to a lot of channels here on YouTube. It's never happened to us. But boy, oh boy, do they try every single day. They never give up. And I find it slightly amusing that they haven't figured it out by now. Any event, I'm glad Mara's dealing with that now and I have to deal with it. How many of those did you get today, Mara? I should say, how many have you gotten this week? I'm sure she's gotten a few. Mark Gain says he's looking forward to starting his Project Zero build. Right on. Well, I hope you'll send us pictures when you're done. It's a very easy build to do. Peter says he got his money back from Google Global Collect. Almost nobody can do that, they said. I did it with all the evidence and it worked, and I promise that if the money comes back, it will go to the animal shelter, to the cats. Right on. So with regards to those fake emails, Mara says, please don't ask. David Graham says, I get a ton of phishing emails. Yeah, well, we all get those, right? But because of my YouTube channel and because of the size of it, it attracts a special kind of email in addition to the phishing emails that they claim to be from a large company with a big budget. And they're ready to spend $3,000, $5,000 for you to play the video that they've already made on your channel at least once during a video. And then you say, okay, well, that sounds good. Where's the video? And they go, right here's the link. And it'll always be some cloud service. And then you'll always, if you look at the return email address, it's always this other country. Almost always, not always, but nearly always. Can't think of what that country is. But you think they'd be smart enough to change that. What are you going to do? All right, we're running a little over today, but let me just take a quick look at how we're doing on the build here. It looks like it went to sleep on me. Change those power settings while we're waiting. I got to go full screen because I can't see it. Power plant. Sleep never. Turn off the monitor, say after save changes. All right. I was hoping that was going to be done and we'd see the drivers installed, but I don't want to take the show on anymore. Thank you for joining. Thank you for being members, and thank you for all the support, the super chats. Just realized I didn't check email, so let me do that real quick. Every time I try to wrap it up, something else, it occurs to me I'm missing a part. Let's see. Joe Martin sent an Amazon gift card of $25. Says, Carey and Mara, thank you for our channel and all that goes into it. Oh, thank you. And thank you for referring to it as our channel, because it is. The people that support us are a part of this channel. I'd say the community is probably the most valuable thing we have here in the channel, where people have these friendships they make and have a place, I'm thinking like Cheers, a place where you're welcome and you feel comfortable. That's what we're trying to create here. Okay, I think that catches me up. Yeah, excellent. All right, that'll wrap it up for today's video. You know what's going to happen here. I'll go ahead and put the rest of the screws in, button this build up, and take it over to Studio C, hopefully by the end of the day today. More videos the rest of the week. Got a lot to catching up to do. So watch for me live at 1 o'clock Pacific time, 4 o'clock Eastern time, every day this week. I don't know for sure, but the next 2 weeks are going to get super, super busy. So I might be doing a lot of videos, or I might be doing none. We have to wait and see how this all plays out. But for the rest of this week, tomorrow and Friday, there should be videos at 1 o'clock, always on Fridays, of course. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you all again very, very soon. Until next time, bye for now.